Talk about a fried egg. I lasted about 5 minutes out there. I said, to heck with this. I'll do this in the morning. And I don't have any inside information. The lady that did it, she got in there. She made it happen.
And he doesn't shy away from opinion.
And I do enjoy drinking cold beer at ballparks. So if that makes me a baseball fan, then I'm a diehard baseball fan.
It's Hacker After Dark on 1010XL.
And a very good Friday evening to you, Jacksonville. It is Hacker After Dark, 1010XL, 92.5 FM with Dylan Denmark. The Hacker Ryan Green with you to close out the week on a Friday. What a football weekend it should be. Couple of games tomorrow, Florida, Kentucky, Florida State, Clemson. And then, of course, the big one in the AFC South on Sunday, Jacksonville and Houston. The Jaguars looking for the first series sweep of the Texans since 2017. Think about that for a moment. The Jaguars have not swept Houston in 8 years. They get that opportunity on Sunday in Houston. Both teams incredibly banged up. We know Houston will be without quarterback C.J. Stroud, starting safety Jalen Petrie, a couple of starting offensive linemen, and Ed Ingram and Titus Howard, and their kicker, Kaimi Fairbairn. Jacksonville will be without Brian Thomas Jr., Hunter Long, Jordan Lewis, and Ezra Cleveland. So it is going to be a battle of attrition Sunday afternoon in Houston, Texas, between the Jaguars and the Texans. We're going to be all over it tonight. Guest lineup looks like this. Coming up in, 15 minutes or so, Seth Payne, former Houston Texan, and of course a former Jacksonville Jaguar. You hear Seth on Sports Radio 610 out in the Houston area. We'll talk about the Texans, obviously, but because Seth is also a former Jaguar, we'll get his thoughts on Liam Cohen and the Jaguars in 2025. So Seth Payne joins me in less than 15 minutes. Also, Jared Bailey of the Sporting News stops by later on in the 8 o'clock hour, as we'll not only talk Jags-Texans, but we'll look around the rest of the AFC South and a little bit league-wide as we are in Week 10 now of the National Football League. Every night here on Hacker After Dark, we do kick it off with a big deal of the night. And Dylan Denmark, let's do that right now.
Time now for the big deal of the night.
What's the big deal?
What is the big deal?
No big deal.
It is a big deal.
On Hacker After Dark.
Okay, couple of things about all the local games tomorrow. Quickly, Georgia, Mississippi State. I think Georgia got lucky. That's a noon Eastern, 11 Central kick in Starkville. Probably would have won the game regardless, but Starkville is a much tougher place to play at night than it is at noon Eastern. Give me the Dogs in Starkville. Florida State, Clemson. You know, when this game came out on the schedule and you're looking at it back on Labor Day, right? You say, wow, that could be two top 10 teams going at it, a playoff spot on the line, maybe College game day will be there. What a huge game. Maybe the ACC game of the year. Instead, it's on the ACC network tomorrow night and has gotten basically no talk at all unless you are a Florida State or a Clemson fan. 4-4 Florida State, 3-5 Clemson in two teams that at this point are just playing out the stretch. Two teams that I guess are looking for a signature win, or in Florida State's case, a second signature win after the victory over Alabama on opening day. I have no idea. Look, I thought Florida State was dead in the water after losing 4 in a row. They play a Wake Forest team last week that came in at 5-2, and Florida State just beat the brakes off of Wake Forest. Whereas Clemson just lost at home to Duke for the first time in like 50 years, and Duke put 46 on them. So conventional thinking would tell you that Florida State's got a little bit of momentum. They're a little hotter football team, but they have been awful on the road. I mean, awful. They haven't won a road game since 2023, right? They did not win on the road last year. They have not won on the road so far this year. They have been grotesquely bad on the road. And at the end of the day, it is still a night game in Death Valley, Tiger Stadium in Clemson, South Carolina. And there's not a lot of love lost for the Seminoles up there. If it was in Tallahassee, I would pick Florida State. Because it's in Clemson, give me Clemson. As far as Florida and Kentucky goes, 7:30 tomorrow night. Not that I'm going to throw stones in a glass house talking about Florida State Clemson on the ACC network. Florida gets relegated to the SEC network. They are the other SEC game tomorrow night. Of course, everybody will be watching Alabama and LSU. I told Denmark this on Gator Bites earlier today. Might have mentioned it last night as well here on Hacker After Dark. Florida has always responded to adversity, or at least in the last year plus. You know, you think back last year fighting for Billy Napier's job, beating LSU and Ole Miss and Florida State. You think back earlier this year when Napier was still the coach, beating Texas. Last week playing for the interim Billy Gonzalez, playing a top 5 Georgia team. Maybe outplayed Georgia for portions of that game, lose a heartbreaker in the fourth quarter. You'll never question the will of Florida or the desire of those Gator players. But I do think at some point, with so many of these type games in the last 12 months, at some point you're bound to have the gas tank go on empty. At some point, the motivation, the desire, you know, the wanting to win one for your coach, at some point, we're all human beings. That might go away, if only for one Saturday night. And I wonder if tomorrow night in Lexington, the 3-5 Gators against the 3-5 Kentucky Wildcats, I wonder what the motivation, the desire will be for Florida. I actually think next week against Ole Miss, it will be there because you're playing against Lane Kiffin, who very well might be your head coach in 2026, and all the coverage that game will have heading into next week. As far as this week goes, you're just coming off that Georgia loss. You got Lane Kiffin next week, and sandwiched in the middle is this trip to the Commonwealth. You haven't played well up there in the last couple of years. I don't know, man. Kentucky's coming off a big win for their coach, Mark Stoops, and beating Auburn. I just wonder if tomorrow night is finally the night where the bottom might fall out for Florida. And I don't think Kentucky's going to win by 20. I mean, I'm not saying that. Clearly, Florida's got better talent. But at some point, I do think the gas tank might go on empty in a game like this. I mean, what are you really playing for at this point? You can say all the great things publicly. At the end of the day, 13 of your guys aren't playing. You're 3-5. You're playing out the stretch with a coaching staff that's not even going to be there in a month's time. Where will the motivation come from for the Gators? So for that reason, I'm actually going to take Kentucky. I'm going back and forth. I picked Florida 10-9 on Gator Bites. I've really been thinking about it all day. I'm going to say it's going to be 10-9 one way or the other, just for the point of being credible on both the podcast and here. I'm going to say 10-9 Florida, but I could just as easily say 10-9 Kentucky. I think it's going to be a boring slugfest, bad offenses, good defenses, just a blah kind of game. And because I took Florida on the podcast earlier today, so I don't sound like I'm talking out of both sides, I'll take Florida tonight as well. Same score, 10-9 Gators over the Kentucky Wildcats. And that brings me to Jacksonville. Sunday, 1 o'clock in Houston. I was going to pick the Texans all week. And for the interest of fairness here, in picking Jaguar games, I believe I'm 6-2 this year. Either picking for the Jaguars or against them. Now, I missed last week. I was 6-1, and I did pick the Raiders to win, and obviously I lost that game. So I think I'm 6-2, which is decent, right? That's pretty good. My Wolfson education tells me that's 75%. So it's not like I've been picking Jacksonville every week. I certainly haven't. I didn't pick them a week ago. And I was going to pick Houston all week long until, honestly, my opening monologue last night. Rewind the clock back 24 hours to a Thursday night edition of Hacker After Dark. And as I was sitting here talking into this very microphone 24 hours ago, talking about this isn't the same old Jags. This is a Jags team that's proven They can win close games. They've already done it on 4 separate occasions already in 2025. 4 games, all decided by a touchdown or less, that have gone Jacksonville's way. When you talk about the first Houston game, San Francisco, Kansas City, and then last week against Las Vegas. I think Jacksonville, the injuries are bad for both teams. Again, my biggest concern, Brian Thomas Jr., Hunter Long, Ezra Cleveland, Jordan Lewis. I think you'll have enough at wide receiver with the likes of De'Ami Brown, Parker Washington, the newly acquired Jacoby Myers, Tim Patrick is back, to make up for BTJ not being there. Hopefully Cole Van Lannon can fit in that Ezra Cleveland spot. Hunter Long, that hurts. You just put Quentin Morris in there and you hope that Johnny Mutt and Quentin Morris can get you through this week. The Jordan Lewis one concerns me a little bit because without Jordan Lewis, that's going to be a lot on Jarian Jones, probably a lot on Monteric Brown, Greg Newsome, and we'll see about Christian Braswell. But back to the overall point. I don't think this is going to be a pretty game. I don't think it'll be as ugly as last night. Last night's game was horrific. The Raiders and the Broncos, that was a terrible, terrible NFL game to watch. Just awful. I don't think it'll be that ugly, but I do think it will be on the uglier side of a National Football League game. I think the defenses are both going to dominate with Davis Mills on one side and a great Houston defense going up against the Jaguar offense on the other. And I was going to pick Houston because Houston was at home, and it's a must-win situation for them. And this is a game that Jacksonville would not have won in years past. They didn't win it 6 weeks ago when Jake Browning beat them, the backup quarterback. But I do think this is an opportunity for Jacksonville to, quote, take the next step. They've already proven that they're better, considerably better than they were a year ago. They've already won more games than they did a year ago. Can they knock a team out when they're down? Because that's what happens if you beat Houston. If you beat Houston, you all but end their division championship hopes in the AFC South on Sunday. Can you knock a team while they're down? Do not let the Texans get off the mat. Have the killer instinct, if you will, whatever verbiage you want to use. I wasn't going to pick Jacksonville, but in talking about it last night, that this is not the same old Jags, particularly when it comes to close games in the fourth quarter, I think that translates into also knocking a team out while they're down. The Texans are down. They need to win. It's a must win, and they don't have C.J. Stroud. Give me Jacksonville 16, Houston 13. Defensive slugfest. Maybe it's decided by a Cam Little last-second field goal, but I will take the Jaguars to all but end the AFC South hopes of Houston. I like Jacksonville to win the game, and I like Jacksonville to return 6-3 on the year. And again, if you're into the analytics side of things, the Jaguars, I saw one website, if Jacksonville wins on Sunday to get to 6-3, their chances of making the playoffs go to like 70+%. If they lose to fall to 5-4, their chances of making the playoffs drop to under 40%. It is an enormous game. It will be an enormous swing one way or the other. 6-3 on the good side, 5-4 on the bad side. I believe that it will be on the good side. Again, give me Jacksonville to go to Houston and to sweep the Houston Texans for the first time since 2017. Jags, Texans, you'll hear it right here on 1010XL. Let's go out to Houston and let's talk to a man that played for both the Jaguars and the Texans. You hear him every morning on Sports Radio 610 out in the Houston area. That's my buddy Seth Payne. He joins me next on a Friday night here in Jacksonville, Florida, 2 days before the Jaguars and the Texans. Let's talk to Seth Payne next, right here on Hacker After Dark.
Ladies and gentlemen, the weekend.
That's why we give you Pre-Game Friday. Get the news, notes, and inside stuff you need to get ready for game day.
You like that?
Built by Dream Finders Homes on 1010XL.
Blue here for the Blue Crab House, located right off of San Jose. It's on Jewington Creek Road. They've been around since 1996. Indoor-outdoor dining. Also, takeout is available at the Blue Crab House. Open 4:30 to 9, Tuesday through Saturday. Sunday, noon until 9. Remember, Tuesday, $2 margaritas. Wednesday, $1 oyster night. How about the blue crabs? How about my personal favorite, the Canadian snow crabs? Whatever it is that you fancy, you get it right there. The Blue Crab House.
Dr. Kevin Murphy with Southeast Orthopedic Specialists, congratulating our Scholar Athlete of the Week, Mateo Elliott, a senior golfer at Atlantic Coast High. Mateo is a member of the National Honor Society and the Spanish Honor Society. He assists the Special Olympics.
Wesley Financial Group is not a law firm, and Chuck McDowell definitely not an attorney. This is Chuck. If someone talked you into buying something really silly and you want to get out of that silly little thing, my advice, get the facts. Call me and I'll send you our timeshare exit kit absolutely free. Inside, you'll learn how timeshare works and all your options for cancellation.
Call Wesley now for your free exit info kit. 800-656-1551. That's 800-656-1551.
Hey everybody, it's Mike Dempsey, and I only like to recommend the best, which is why I'm proud to say that I chose Pella Windows and Doors for my own home. And now's a great time to upgrade your home with 0% financing for 60 months. That's 5 years of interest-free payments on the best windows and doors in the business. Don't wait. Schedule a free consultation at PellaJacks.com or visit their showroom on Phillips Highway just north of Bay Meadows. For quality you can trust and savings you can't miss, that's Pella Windows and Doors.
Frank Frangie here for Stanley Pools. If you're dreaming of putting in a pool this year, choosing the right company is the most important decision you'll make. I've trusted Stanley Pools to build my pool, renovate my pool, and maintain my pool. Stanley Pools has been the best in the business since 1988, and they're still family-owned. Call them today at 904-269-7277 or find them online at StanleyPoolsFL.com. That's Stanley Pools, a family tradition of fine swimming pools.
Hey, Hicken here for Zero Res. It's Thanksgiving time, man. But listen, don't deal with the toughest gravy, cranberry sauce, or pumpkin pie disasters. Let the cleaning freaks do it. Get back to clean. 3 rooms of carpet clean starting at $149. A 4th room free with a canned food donation. Ideally, a full bag of cans, not just 1 or 2. Also, take $75 off your air duct cleaning. Call my friend Zero Res right now, 28757, or go online at ZeroResJacksonville.com and say you want the 1010 special. Zero Res, spelled backwards and forwards. It spells the same.
1010XL, presented by Farah and Farah, exclusive injury law firm of the Jacksonville Jaguars. When it's game time, Farah doesn't flinch. Now, another great guest on the Checkmate Coatings phone line.
Hello.
Your floor's missing piece.
Back here on 1010XL and 92.5 FM in the city of Jacksonville, we are glad you are with us. The Jaguars and the Texans, Sunday, 1 o'clock. Of course, you'll hear the game right here on 1010XL, a big game in the AFC South, a chance for Jacksonville to, put the Texans in a lot of trouble when it comes to the division in what probably is a must-win game for the Houston Texans. Let's talk to a man that played for both the Texans and the Jaguars during his NFL career. You hear him now on Sports Radio 610 out in Houston. That is Seth Payne, always kind enough to join us here on 1010XL Radio. Seth, how we doing, man?
We're good. I feel great. The Texans, much like the Jaguars, are really just beat the hell up right now. They've got a lot of guys on the injury report, just like the Jaguars do. But it's obviously with C.J. Stroud out, going to Davis Mills. I think Jaguars fans have fond memories of Davis Mills, if I remember correctly. At least the last time Trevor Lawrence played against or opposite Davis Mills, and went really well for the Jaguars. So Titus Howard, the right tackle, though, also having concussion, is kind of a big deal for this team that hoped to have a better offensive line, but really was only getting good performances out of their right guard and then their right tackle, Titus Howard. Him going down is a big blow for the Texans.
Yeah, it's going to be a battle of attrition for both teams, no question about it. And Seth, before we really look at the game, let's talk about Houston, 3-5. Obviously not where anybody thought the Texans would be at this point. But my thing was, in the offseason, you look at what the Texans did, particularly on that offensive line, and I was telling anybody that asked me, I was like, look, the Texans have a phenomenal defense. I don't know about their offense, and that's kind of been the story of the season to this point, has it not?
Oh, yeah. And, there's a first-time offensive coordinator, Nick Caley. Nobody knew what to expect of him. But then, it was obvious the Texans had issues on their offensive line last year. They got rid of 3 of their starters, and all offseason long, or at least leading up to free agency and into the draft, Texans fans are thinking, okay, we're going to rebuild this offensive line, right? You tore it down to the studs. When does the rebuild begin? And they really didn't do much. They signed Cam Robinson, but then traded him away early in the season we're still not exactly sure why, but Ariante Ursary was drafted in the 2nd round. He starts at left tackle. Josh Hines-Allen had some really game-changing moments against him in the last game. But then at left guard, center, and right guard, it kind of went with just guys who hadn't done it yet in the NFL or were journeyman types. And Ed Ingram, the right guard, I think has played above what you could have expected. But by and large, the rebuild just hasn't gotten off the ground yet. And the offensive line and their performance is reflected in it. The biggest thing, obviously pass protection is always a concern, but they really want to run the ball. They want to be physical at the point of attack. And they just cannot do it. Ryan, they've had 3 different situations this year where they had the ball at first down at the 1-yard line going in on the goal line and were unable to score. Mm-hmm. Like, just the simplest should be able to do it. You got a 90+% chance of scoring when it's first and goal on the 1-yard line. And they haven't been able to do it partly because their offensive line just isn't as physical as they want to be.
Former Texan and former Jaguar Seth Payne with us here on 1010XL. Jaguars and the Texans this Sunday at 1 o'clock. It was eye-opening when the Jaguars traded Christian Kirk to the Texans this offseason. Now, they were going to flat-out cut him, so I guess getting anything back was better than nothing. I think they got a 7th-rounder in return. But from the outside looking in, Seth, it looks like Christian Kirk, kind of what happened here the last couple of years, a lot of injury problems and just hasn't been very healthy a majority of the year.
Yeah, and I think, that's probably what a lot of well, I know from social media that's what a lot of Jaguars fans were saying when the Texans traded for him was, all right, have fun with him when he's healthy and available. And even when he has been healthy and available, he hasn't really been doing all that much. And then the double whammy there is that the Texans drafted 2 wide receivers, one in the 2nd round and one in the 3rd round, Jaden Higgins and Jalen Knoll. And those guys have been very sparsely used. Jalen Knoll's had some good moments as a returner. He's had some good moments as a receiver, but he was only on the field for 11 snaps last week. So they really haven't been able to get it going with anybody in the receiving corps, including Nico Collins, who's having a down year by Nico Collins standards. And it's nobody's really blaming Nico Collins. It's really just a matter of CJ Stroud not looking super comfortable in the offense, and I think defenses being able to focus on Nico Collins. It's kind of minimized his production.
I'm interested in your take on this because it made some news over here this week, as you can imagine. Last year, when Azeez Al-Shaair did what he did to Trevor, DeMeco Ryans basically said, well, Trevor should have slid earlier, and maybe the Jaguars made too big a deal out of that. And then last week, CJ Stroud, something very similar happens to him, and all of a sudden, DeMeco Ryans' tone changed a little bit with that hit. What was your thought on that whole thing?
My thought was that, I couldn't be a hypocrite about it. I shared some of, the Azeez Al-Shaair hit was a more vicious hit than the one that CJ Stroud took. And I did think that Azeez should have been flagged for that one. But I thought that the way they enforced the rule, and the way they call the rule, I thought that they do have to put more of the responsibility on the quarterback to slide earlier. So last year, the way that it was called, I got it. The thing is, DeMeco said, hey, we've had times in the past where guys have gotten flagged for hits like the one on Stroud. Yeah, they've changed that. That's what we asked for. We asked for them to put more of the responsibility on the quarterback to get himself out of harm's way if he's going to slide. And that's the way they're calling it this year. So I didn't have an issue with them picking up that flag. I had seen it earlier in the year when I can't remember who the Browns were playing, but a defensive back hit Flacco, and the exact same thing happened. Hit him in the torso. There was a flag on the field. Booth review had him pick up the flag. And I think that's the way it should be called. So I didn't have a problem with it. I do think that in that moment, CJ, it was kind of similar to Trevor Lawrence's scenario in that it was 2 yards shy of the line to gain for the first down. and you can see how a quarterback is thinking. His eyes get big, and he's trying to get that first down, and he probably pushes the envelope too hard. So in those moments, yeah, CJ should have. And it wasn't a very good slide either. Just from if I were going to grade the technique on it, it wasn't a very good slide, and he probably slid too late.
The thing is, though, you could do a lot worse than Davis Mills, right, as a backup quarterback. The guy started some games in this league. I mean, he had the Texans at least in position to win last week. It was an 18-15 loss to Denver. What is the thought about Davis Mills starting on Sunday?
Boy, his performance in the game when he had to come in last week was kind of par for the course for what you get with Davis Mills. Is that he had one throw to Nico Collins. It was just beautiful. It was a touch throw. I heard Liam Cohen talking about it in his press conference. But then he follows it up with throwing high to a crosser, misfiring to a running back on some of the easier throws. He just misfires too much. He's just not an accurate passer. He had a chance to throw. He had a chance to connect with Christian Kirk in the fourth quarter down the seam, and he just completely missed him. So he's just not consistently accurate enough. And he was probably lucky to not have a couple of interceptions in the game last week because he threw the ball into harm's way. So I think what you hope for this week is, as a Texans, if you're a Texans fan, is that with a week of practice where he's getting all of the reps, that he can be more comfortable, not maybe try to force some of the throws that he tried to force last week, but he simply just does not have the accuracy or ball placement of CJ Stroud. And then, when it comes to, hey, can you help him out with the run game? I don't think this week, the Texans have struggled to run the ball versus good defenses, and the Jaguars have a good run defense, and the defensive line up front compared to the Texans offensive line, there's just a physical mismatch there. So when that Texans offensive line has had to go against guys who are big and tough and physical, they've been the smaller football team, and I think that's probably what happens this week too.
Final moments with Seth Payne. Now, you're a former Texan. You do sports radio out in Houston, but with our audience, you'll always be former Jaguar, Seth Payne. So I'm curious your thoughts on Liam Cohen, James Gladstone, Tony Baselli, and the job that's been done here in Jacksonville so far in year number one.
I'm really excited for Tony Baselli. I think that Tony has just always been really interesting to me because he's got that edge to him that I think a lot of maybe former players that go to the front office might not have when it comes to working in a role where you're going to be wearing a suit or at least a collared shirt a bunch of times. Like I think that Tony has intelligence and the experience of a player, but I think he also is going to be able to make tough decisions when they need to be made. He does not shy away from stuff like that. Liam Cohen, I've been really impressed by, and I was actually talking to Bucky Brooks a couple days ago about how he seems to have that undefinable it factor when it comes to being a leader of men and being able to get the most out of them. I mean, I had that conversation with him, and then I started diving in on the Jaguars, and I'm watching ETN run, and man, I've always felt like he was he'd been either underutilized or they hadn't figured out a way to get him to achieve his potential. But the way he's running the football, that's the kind of football player you want on your team. He looks like he's responding to whatever Liam Cohen is putting out. Because I think there's kind of a toughness and a grittiness about this Jaguars team that is above and beyond what I'd seen in the last couple of years.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. This team never used to win one-score games, and they've won 4 of them already this year. They're starting to have confidence late in the fourth quarter. Seth, it's an enormous game. Jacksonville 5-3, Houston 3-5. If the Jaguars win, it would be the first sweep over the Texans since 2017. And with the tiebreaker, Jacksonville would basically be up 4 with 8 games to go. I mean, I know it's only the first part of November, but we've probably entered must-win territory for the Texans Sunday, have we not?
Oh yeah. And I used to be a strict mathematical must-win guy. I didn't like saying a game was must-win unless it was a mathematical must-win, but especially with the division the way it is this year, it's going to be damn near impossible for the Texans to make the playoffs if they don't win this game, because they've still got games on the road versus the Chiefs and the Colts coming up. They've got the Bills at home on Thursday night. They've got some really tough challenges later on in the schedule. And then within the division, obviously, you get swept by the Jaguars. And if the Jaguars go up to 6 wins and the Colts are at whatever they are, I have a real hard time seeing the Texans make the playoffs if they don't win this one.
And final question. I mean, D'Amico's not in any trouble, but, I mean, would there begin to be some pressure mounting on him going into next year if they don't make the playoffs?
I think there's a good chance that that ownership might do what they did back in 2011 with Gary Kubiak. So Gary Kubiak, offensive-minded head coach, and the offense had done some good things heading into 2011, but the defense has just been an absolute mess the entire time he was there. So he was a relatively young offensive-minded coach, and ownership basically said, all right, this is your defensive coordinator. It's going to be Wade Phillips. We're going to bring in an older guy that can run the defense and knows what he's doing. I think I could see. I don't think ownership is going to lose faith in DeMeco Ryans, but they might put some restrictions on him when it comes to choosing an offensive coordinator and get somebody in there who can kind of be the head coach of the offense.
Former Texan and former Jaguar defensive tackle Seth Payne. You hear him every morning, Sports Radio 610 out in the Houston area. Seth, I know you're busy, man. Thank you for the time, and we'll talk again soon, pal.
Hey, my pleasure. I always enjoy it. Thanks, Ryan.
There you go, Seth Payne. Always appreciate Seth joining me here on Hacker After Dark. One of the good guys, no question about that. And, yeah, it is a must-win for Houston. You just heard Seth say it. Cecil Shorts last night, another guy that played for both the Jaguars and the Texans, told me the same thing. Must win for Houston. That's why it's a scary proposition for Jacksonville going out there. If C.J. Stroud were playing, I would not like the Jaguar chances. But it is Davis Mills. He's a game manager, right? He's not going to be scrambling all over the place and throwing 50-yard bombs down the field. He's going to be dinking and dunking you, and that's something he can do pretty well. I mean, ask Denver. He dinked and dunked them to death. The problem Houston had last week is they were getting 4 yards here and 5 yards there, and that's all fine and well. But when they got into Bronco territory, Denver put the clamps on, and Houston had to settle for field goal after field goal after field goal, and eventually the Houston defense just wore out, and Denver put one in the end zone and beat them. And again, with Houston, think about this as well. If they got to settle for a lot of field goals, they're not going to have Kaimi Fairbairn, their regular kicker. He's out, and former Jaguar Matthew Wright is going to be kicking for Houston on Sunday. If you don't remember Matthew Wright, remember Urban Meyer's first win over in London against the Miami Dolphins. That was Matthew Wright, who kicked the game winner for the Jaguars, 5-6 years ago. And now here we are, Wright kicking against Jacksonville in a big matchup on Sunday. As far as the AFC South goes, Jared Bailey of the Sporting News. We'll look at Jags-Texans. We'll also look at the Titans, a little bit on the Colts as well. Speaking of the Colts, boy, it was all sunshine and rainbows, right? Everything was great. All of a sudden, they commit 6 turnovers. They lose to Pittsburgh. Now they're 7-2. And today, they put DeForest Buckner on injured reserve. One of, if not the best defensive player on that team. DeForest Buckner is going to miss a minimum of 4 games. The 4th of those 4 games will be against Jacksonville. So the Jaguars will miss DeForest Buckner in their week 13, week 14 game against Indianapolis. As he's placed on IR today, will miss a minimum of 4 games. With Dylan Denmark, the Hacker Ryan Green with you. We're glad you're with us on a Friday night here in Jacksonville on Hacker After Dark. Coming up next, Jared Bailey of the Sporting News. Let's talk Jags-Texans. Let's look around the rest of the division as well. Again, glad you're with us. We roll on till 10 o'clock right here on 1010XL and 92.5 FM.
Attention skilled electricians. Are you undervalued at your current company? Time to step up to the bigger projects and better opportunities. Join the team at Miller Electric Company, a trusted name in the industry for over 96 years. At Miller, we tackle the biggest projects in the city, offering not just a job, but an experienced, top-notch pay, unbeatable benefits, and the best working environments in the business. Please join the team that values your skills and rewards your hard work. Elevate your career to new heights. Apply today at millercareers.com, an equal opportunity employer.
Strap in, Duval. The Jaguars are gearing up to face the Los Angeles Chargers Sunday, November 16th for our annual Salute to Service game. Join us as we honor and celebrate the brave men and women of our military all game long. Secure your seats now and be a part of the action by visiting jaguars.com/tickets or call 904-633-2000. Let's stand together, Duval.
Garrett Scantling here, and once again, thanks to Southeast Orthopedic Specialists, I'm back to training for the 2028 Olympics in LA. My torn hip labrum issue is resolved thanks to Dr. Doward, and Dr. Acevedo keeps my feet healthy too. Training and competing, that's what it's all about for me. And Southeast Orthopedic Specialists has me in top condition.
Relieve pain and get back to life. Southeast Orthopedic Specialists.
Bueller.
Stay cooler with Bueller.
Jason, I called you about the ductwork in my attic this summer, and you totally blew me off.
I did.
My airflow is too low and my bills are too high.
I know.
There's stains on my ceiling tiles and sweating around the vents, and the mice have chewed so many holes in the ducts, I think they're getting more AC than I am.
I know.
Then how could you let me suffer all summer, Jason?
Because summer is the one time of year I just can't send my technician into someone's steaming hot attic. They'd kill me. Ductwork is hot, cramped work at the best of times. Lucky for you, those best of times are in November.
You mean like now?
Bueller Air and Plumbing can repair your old, damaged, or just plain sketchy ductwork right now when it's not too hot and not too cold.
And none of your technicians will kill you.
It's a win-win.
Stay cooler with Bueller.
Visit BuellerAir.com.
San Jose Collision is hiring for an automotive detailer and porter. If you're detail-oriented, dependable, and love working with cars, apply in person at San Jose Collision in Mandarin. Valid driver's license required.
With 50 years of fabrication expertise in towing products, the family at Cannons of Jacksonville can repair or install precisely what you need to tow with confidence. Visit cannonsofjacks.com, where quality and customer satisfaction collide.
Hi, I'm Mac with Baker Glass. If you've got fogged up windows, let me help. We'll replace them with clear, insulated units that brighten up your home. People say we're fast, friendly, and reliable. Just check out our Google reviews. Call me today. Baker Glass. No one treats you better.
Need or want cash? Beaches Jewelry and Pawn has cash available. Ready to buy guitars, surfboards, jewelry, firearms, tools, and especially gold. They need it all, selling or pawning. Get cash on the spot at Beaches Jewelry and Pawn in Jacksonville Beach.
Movember is Men's Health Awareness Month, so take charge of your health and vitality at Ackerman Urology in Mandarin, Middleburg, the Beaches, and World Golf Village. For prostate and urological needs, trust Ackerman Urology. AckermanUrology.com.
For lost or broken keys or nearly any make and model of vehicle, call 722-1111 for
Instant Keys. Instant Keys. You don't have to go to the dealer. Instant Keys comes to you.
Make Honda of the Avenues your first stop for award-winning customer service and world-class Honda vehicles. Our inventory is larger than ever, which means we have the perfect Honda waiting for you. Plus, at Honda of the Avenues, we always put our customers first, making the car buying experience fun, fast, and easy. You'll always find great deals on our huge selection of new and certified pre-owned Hondas, all prepped and ready for a test drive. Come see just how different car buying can be at Honda of the Avenues today. Stop by or shop from home at HondaoftheAvenues.com. Proud sponsor of Sporting Jacks.
1010XL, presented by Farah and Farah, exclusive injury law firm of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Focused, fueled, fearless, Farah. Now, another great guest on the Checkmate Coatings phone line. Hello. Your floor's missing piece.
Back here on 1010XL at 92.5 FM in the city of Jacksonville. We are glad you are with us. The Jaguars and the Texans, Sunday, 1 o'clock. Of course, you'll hear it right here on 1010XL. Boy, what an opportunity the Jaguars have on Sunday. They can basically put the final nail in the Texans' coffin as far as the AFC South goes. A win for Jacksonville on Sunday would give the Jaguars basically a 4-game lead with 8 games remaining. Let's talk about the Jaguars-Texans. Let's also talk about the Colts, a little Titans talk as well. Jared Bailey of the Sporting News, one of our favorites to talk NFL with, and he's always kind enough to join us here on 1010XL. Jared, how you doing, man?
I'm doing good, man. Yeah, we're
at least I'm in kind of like the Christmas season now. As soon as the calendar flips from October to November, the house turns into the North Pole. So I'm doing very well.
Yeah, the wife is the same. We've already started, and we already got the holiday music running, so we're here. And, boy, for the first time in a while, the Jaguars, once we get into the holiday season, are actually competitive, right? I mean, I guess only the second time since 2017, if you go back to 2022, that the Jaguars haven't really been out of it by this point. You and I haven't spoken over a month. What's been your take on Jacksonville's 5-3 start to the year?
That they're wildly inconsistent. And it's, you look at this Raiders game the last Sunday is a pretty good example of that. They go into the half, the only points on the board is a 68-yard field goal from Cam Little. And then they erupt in the second half, obviously put up 30 and win in overtime. Hopefully this, I'm sure we'll, dive into the Jakobi Meyers trade, but hopefully getting him to complement Brian Thomas as well as Travis Hunter when Travis Hunter gets back gives them a little bit more weaponry for Trevor Lawrence to work with offensively. But yeah, I mean, this is a team that, they win a big game on Monday night against Kansas City, and then they lay an egg in London against the Rams. And it's not to say that, they have to win every game. Obviously that's not going to happen, but, and specifically with the Rams game, I thought it would be a much better contest than 35-7, especially when you remember that the Rams got there like Saturday before and it was just a weird travel schedule for them. So, to beat Kansas City and then lose 2 games in a row to Seattle and Los Angeles, especially the latter one in the manner that they did. They're an inconsistent football team, I would say. But they rebounded in the way that they should have and beat a Raiders team that is kind of dead in the water. I know Vegas put up a good fight and took it to overtime. Jacksonville's on the road playing a desperate Raiders team, so I'm not going to hold too much against them there. If they win on Sunday against Houston, they are in really good position to hold on to a wild card spot, especially because they have a lot of divisional games in the second half of the year. So if they can take care of their business, they'll be one of those playoff teams, I would assume.
Yeah, I thought it was a huge win. I mean, you're right. The Raiders aren't very good, but let's be honest. Jacksonville, 90% of the time in the last 15 years, loses a game like that. I had already chalked it up to a loss. I'm like, well, the Vegas Raiders are going to drive down. They're going to score. They're going to get the 2-point conversion and win. And they darn near did, but Devon Hamilton got his big paw up there. And I thought that win, Jarrett, kind of calmed the waters locally here a little bit. Everybody was having, football-related Jaguar stress disorder from years and years of ineptitude. But winning a game like that, getting to 5-3, kind of settled things here for a tad bit.
Yeah, and like I said, you look at the second half of their schedule, they have a real good chance to, solidify themselves as at least a playoff team. And, depending on what happens with Indianapolis, perhaps win the division. They still have both games against the Colts remaining. They got a game against Tennessee in Tennessee that they should win. They got a game against the Jets at home that looks pretty winnable. The toughest games that they have would be, obviously the 2 Colts games, but they tend to split those, historically speaking. Out of division, they play the Chargers, not this coming week, but the week after. That's a home game. I would say the toughest out of division game that they have would be at Denver. But other than that, I mean, no game on their schedule, you look at it and say, oh, man, there's no way they're winning this. So, 10 wins isn't out of the equation. And if they get there, I think that they're a playoff team. And again, depending on how those splits go with Indianapolis and depending on what the Colts do the rest of the way, they could still win the AFC South. So still very much, a lot to feel good about with Jacksonville, especially when you look at the schedule that they have. There's a lot of winnable games there. And, as long as they take care of their business, they should be playing in January.
Jaguars, Texans, Sunday, 1 o'clock. You'll hear it right here on 1010XL. We got Jared Bailey of the Sporting News with us. All right. You mentioned Jakobi Meyers. All the talk about the Travis Hunter injury, the absolute gut punch. We'll see if/when he is able to return. They finished the game against the Raiders without De'Ami Brown and without Brian Thomas Jr. I mean, for crying out loud, they had Parker Washington, Austin Trammell, and Tim Jones as their 3 wide receivers to end that game. But they do make a relative splash with Jakobi Meyers. What does Jakobi Meyers, Jarrett, bring to the Jaguars?
Yeah, I mean, he's a guy who can stretch the field. He had 87 catches and over 1,000 yards a year ago at the Raiders. And he made it pretty known early on that he wanted to be traded. And then obviously at the deadline, it finally gets done. Somebody who's a really good compliment for Brian Thomas and Travis Hunter. You can find a bunch of ways to move those guys around. If you want to put Travis Hunter as more of the slot guy, to be the underneath guy you can get the ball to. And then when he has the ball in his hands, can make a lot happen after the catch. Brian Thomas can kind of be the guy who operates in all facets of the field. Jacoby Myers can too. So a really complementary weapon. And when they go into 11 personnel, to have Thomas, Hunter, and Jacoby Myers on the field at the same time, that'll be a handful for defenses to try to deal with. Even, if they want to swap out Parker Washington to put him in the slot at different times, he's been reliable for Trevor Lawrence this year. So they have legitimately a top 5 guys when it comes to their receivers when they're healthy that fill good roles and are reliable when you talk about Washington and De'Ami Brown. So a nice deep receiving core for Jacksonville. You talk about the injuries. They've certainly needed that depth. But once everybody gets healthy, like I said, when they go into 11 personnel, that's going to be a pain in the butt to deal with.
You look at Houston on Sunday, the Jaguars have a chance to bury them, right? Jacksonville 5-3, Houston 3-5. Jacksonville already has the head-to-head in week 3. If they were to win on Sunday, that's a season sweep, and that would basically be a 3-game lead plus the tiebreaker. Jacksonville would be up 4 with 8 to go. This is must-win territory for the Texans Sunday, is it not?
Yeah, it is. But, having Davis Mills out there's just not going to be a lot of expectations, I would assume, from Houston. It's a home game, and that's fine. And their defense is very good. But offensively, they've just got nothing all year. And a lot of that comes from the fact that they can't block anybody. Nico Collins has dealt with an injury this year as well, and he's been in and out of the lineup. So they haven't had the offensive production that they would need to complement the defense. And when you put something like that together, you can be as good a defense as you want to be. If you can't put up points, it's all for naught, especially in today's NFL. So with C.J. Stroud not being out on the field, it's got to be a heavy favoritism in terms of Jacksonville, we would assume. I know that it started off, I think the line was 1.5, so it was basically a pick 'em. I would expect to see that number grow a little bit in favor of Jacksonville before Sunday. It's a game that Jacksonville should win. Again, not going to be easy going up against that really good defense, but Jacksonville's defense has been awesome throughout the majority of the year. They've been very opportune with takeaways, and they should be able to handle Davis Mills at quarterback. So a game that I expect them to win, even it being on the road when you're facing a backup quarterback. Good things for a good defense tend to happen.
Again, I'm not the biggest analytics guy, but numbers don't lie. And I saw something where if Jacksonville wins on Sunday, their playoff chances go to 70%. If they lose on Sunday, their playoff chances are down to 38%. That was eye-opening to me. There is a gigantic difference between 6-3 and 5-4.
Yeah, and look, we've seen that around the NFL already. The Steelers were 4-1, and then they quickly lose 2 games in a row and are staring down the barrel of the gun facing the Colts, and they get a big win. And there's a large difference between being 5-3 and 4-4. So it's a trope of every game in the NFL matters. Well, it really does, especially situationally speaking. You point out the playoff odds and whatnot. If they can win these next 2 games against Houston and then the Chargers, who were playing with a depleted offensive line, no Joe Alt, no Rashawn Slater. They just traded for Trevor Penning. But those are both winnable games. If they can get to 7-3, it would be very hard for them to find themselves out of the playoffs once they roll around. So next 2 weeks, very big for Jacksonville. And look, even if they split, you're 6-4, you feel pretty good about that going into a game against Arizona, who, while they found new life there with Jacoby Brissett under center, again, not a game that you look at and say, oh, there's no way that they can win this. I would assume that they would probably be the favorite in that, depending on what happens over the next few weeks. So even if they split and get to 6-4, you feel pretty good about their odds. But if they can get to 7-3, it would be hard for them to mess up getting into the postseason.
Final moments, Jared Bailey of the Sporting News. Jared, as we wrap up, Tennessee is 1-8. It is what it is. They've already fired their coach. They're looking towards 2026. Indianapolis currently leads the division. And look, I'm trying not to be a Jaguar homer here, and Indianapolis may very well win the AFC South. But I look at the teams they've already beaten. 2 Titan wins, a Dolphin win, a Raider win, and a Cardinal win. I'll give him credit for the game against the Chargers in L.A. That was a nice win. Denver beat them, but then the leverage call at the end of the game. I just don't know if Indy is as good as a 7-2 record would indicate, and the back half of their schedule is absolutely brutal with trips to Kansas City, Seattle, Jacksonville, and Houston.
I push back on that, with a lot of spots that I do. It would be one thing if they were only winning these games by, a field goal or 5 points or whatever it is. They aren't just beating the bad teams. They're destroying them. They beat the Raiders like 40-6. They beat Tennessee handedly. They beat up on Miami in week 1. So it's not just that they're winning these games. They're routinely blowing teams out. They lose to Pittsburgh. They turn the ball over 6 times. That's probably not going to happen again this year. That was a desperate Steelers team at home that really needed a win, and they just were more opportunistic. So I believe the Colts are for real. There's always going to be that thing hanging over them in terms of but it's Daniel Jones, and that's fine. You understand that. We've seen a lot of those situations over the past few years. We saw it last year with Sam Darnold and the Vikings, and he's playing well right now with Seattle. We saw it with Baker Mayfield and Tampa, and obviously that's turned out to be a tremendous partnership there. We saw it with Geno Smith in Seattle for a few years, and he took them to the playoffs, and they won 10 games last year. So it's not to say that Daniel Jones is all of a sudden a top 10 guy, but when you're not one of the 5 to 7 truly elite quarterbacks in the NFL, situations matter, and if the right situation can elevate a bottom of the barrel guy to being a middle of the pack guy, and that's what we're seeing with Daniel Jones. He's operating Shane Steichen's offense very well. They have a really good collection of weapons, a good offensive line, and a good defense, by the way, who just added Sauce Gardner. So that's a team that I take for real. I don't think that they're Super Bowl contenders, but I think that they could go into the postseason, win a playoff game, and give Buffalo or Kansas City a little bit of hell in the divisional round. So I take them seriously, but I take them seriously to a degree.
Jared, final question. We've entered the month of November. Give me your top 3 in the AFC, top 3 in the NFC as it stands right now.
Larry, let me think. I think the top 2 in the AFC right now, I think it's pretty indisputable that it's Buffalo and Kansas City. After that, man, I understand the Colts record. We just talked about them. I think New England's better than them. So I would probably say AFC, Bills, Chiefs, Patriots. NFC, I think the Rams right now are the best team in football. It's kind of getting overlooked how great Matthew Stafford's played. All the talk's been about, oh, man, look at Baker Mayfield. Oh, man, Patrick Mahomes is playing at an MVP level, and Drake May. And that's all well and good. I think Matthew Stafford right now would get my MVP vote if I had one. So the Rams, I think, are the best team in football. They're my number one team in the NFC. I'd put Philadelphia 2, and it's a toss-up between Seattle and Tampa Bay. I guess I would give it to Tampa Bay since they beat Seattle. So Rams, Eagles, Bucks in the NFC for my top 3 there.
Halfway point of the National Football League as we approach Week 10. Jared Bailey of the Sporting News. Jared, tell the good folks here in Jacksonville, man, what you have coming out on the website as Week 10 approaches.
Yeah, follow me on Twitter at JBaileyNFL for all the stuff there. Subscribe to the YouTube as well, by the way, under the same name, youtube.com/@JBaileyNFL for all the episodes of the Pump Fake. My national podcast is talking everything NFL. Follow along everything going on at the Sporting News. Not too many big features that I have in mind for this week, at least. We'll see what happens in Week 10 and go from there. But for right now, just follow on Twitter at JBaileyNFL for everything going on.
Yeah, and your podcast is very, very good. I encourage Jaguar fans to go check that out as well. Jared Bailey. Jared, appreciate the time as always. We'll talk soon, man.
Sure thing, man. Have a good one.
He's got his trigger finger on the pulse of Jacksonville football.
Does he have a name?
He calls himself Mike Duraco.
And we get his insight every Thursday from 10 to noon on Jaguars Today. Written by Lee at Kate's Glass on 1010XL.
It's your boy, Big Service, all-pro lineman, and your lemon pepper guy. Nothing screams game day like Wingstop. But get this, every Saturday and Sunday this football season, score big with Wingstop special deals. Order a 100-piece wing pack online at wingstop.com or the Wingstop app using promo code JAX20 and get $20 off. That's right, carry out or delivery. It's your call. Use online promo code JAX20 for $20 off a 100-piece wing pack. Fire up your game day order this weekend with Wingstop.
I know two brothers whose minds are always in the gutters.
Hi, I'm Tim.
And I'm Kevin.
We are the Good Brothers.
That's good with an E.
From Good Brothers Roofs and Gutters.
We install 6 and 7-inch seamless gutters, plus we repair and replace roofs, pool enclosures, and super gutters.
We are the Good Brothers, veteran-owned and local.
Visit goodbrothersroofsandgutters.com.
License number CCC 1334384.
Good Brothers Roofs and Gutters.
So I'm here with Danny Van Sickle, Director of the Electrical Training Alliance. Danny, tell me about your program.
Hey, Rick, we're a 5-year electrical apprenticeship. Our students start out making over $30,000 a year and right now graduate making over $80,000 a year, including benefits. There is no tuition and no student debt. You just have to apply and get accepted.
Did you say no tuition and no student debt?
You heard that right, Rick. Once you're accepted into the program, your only costs are the books and the course fees, around $700 a year.
Wow, that sounds like an amazing opportunity. How can I learn more?
Just go to etajax.org and you can apply there.
Wesley Financial Group is not a law firm, and Chuck McDowell definitely not an attorney. This is Chuck. If someone talked you into buying something really silly and you want to get out of that silly little thing, my advice, get the facts. Call me and I'll send you our timeshare exit kit absolutely free. Inside, you'll learn how timeshare works and all your options for cancellation.
Call Wesley now for your free exit info kit. 800-656-1551. That's 800-656-1551.
Jacksonville, hunting season is here, and nobody gears you up like Green Acres Sporting Goods, home of the largest archery pro shop in Northeast Florida. They've got everything for all seasons: archery, black powder, and general gun season. Green Acres is a fully stocked Browning dealer with ammo, accessories, and safes. Don't miss out on Florida's Second Amendment sales tax holiday, happening now through the end of the year. Gear up today at greenacresporting.com.
I love my propane company. They always answer when I call and give me great prices and fast service. Said no one ever.
Until now. Need propane for your home or business? Seabreeze Propane is bringing the propane as North Florida's new local propane provider. Visit SeabreezeLP.com. Seabreeze Propane. We make propane cool, brother. Oh, yeah.
Leonard Skinner is coming home, and they're bringing the Stars and Stripes. Celebrate Southern rock and American pride with Leonard Skinner Rocks the Red, White, and Blue. It's a special night to support St. Michael's soldiers and the brave men and women of our armed forces.
Singing songs about the Southland.
Saturday, November 8th at Daly's Place. Tickets on sale now, only at Ticketmaster. Daly'sPlace.com for details. Be there when Skinner rocks, for those who serve.
Greenlaw Group is for the insured. If you think you have roof damage, call 904-302-7055 today, and they will schedule you a free roof inspection. Trust their law firm to help you fight your insurance when you need it. These storms can cause damage you may not even see yet. Call Greenlaw Group 302-7055. There's no cost to retain their law firm and no cost to have your roof inspected. They only get paid if you win. Greenlaw Group, for the insured.
Learn everything you need to know about the Jaguars on Duval Rundown. I'm Hayes Carlyon. Join me each Monday, Wednesday, and Friday morning at 9:04. You can find Duval Rundown on all the social channels of 1010XL.
Driven by Jacksonville Chrysler Jeep Dodge Ram Westside.
Hi, I'm Sean Monahan from Monahan Jewelers in Atlantic Beach. Since 1977, we've been Jacksonville's local family jeweler with a beautiful selection of fine jewelry and certified diamonds. But we're also Jacksonville's leading buyer of gold, silver, and diamonds from the public. Gold has recently hit an all-time high at over $3,600 per ounce. Pay bills, buy something fun. Now is the time to sell your gold for cash and get top dollar, or trade it in for a new piece and get even more value at Monahan Jewelers in Atlantic Beach.
Make your Thanksgiving table unforgettable. At Jacksonville Flower Market, their custom centerpieces burst with fall color and charm. Stop by Beach and Southside to design your holiday arrangement. Jacksonville Flower Market, where every table blooms with thanks.
Home of the Jaguars. WJXL AM Jacksonville Beach. WJXL FM Jacksonville Beach.
Hey, this is Lauren Brooks. I love Hello Smooth Med Spa, my go-to for skin health and beauty. Their biggest event of the year is November 19th, National Botox Day. Huge deals, local vendors, and it benefits Make-A-Wish. Don't miss it. Visit HelloSmooth.com for more details.
Homeowners, storms don't wait, so why should you? Protect your home and your wallet with Universal Roof and Contracting. Save up to 20% on roof replacements and repairs now through November 13th. Financing available with payments as low as $115. Call 855-ROOF-HELP for your free inspection. Universal Roof and Contracting. Protecting your home, building your trust.
License number CCC 057165, CBC 1258484.
UniversalRoof.com. Checkmate Coatings. Your floor's missing piece.
Yo, Jacksonville, Hickens Hype. Checkmate Coatings crushes it with floors I'd put in my own pad.
I'm Brendan with Checkmate Coatings. We coat it all: garages, pool decks, driveways, and patios. Be the envy of your neighbors.
Rush to checkmatecoatings.com. Checkmate Coatings, your floor's missing piece.
Checkmate Coatings. Your floor's missing piece.
Lauren Brooks here for Terminix. When pests invade your home or business, you don't just need them out, you need them out fast. And you need to keep them out. At Terminix, they'll show up for you and eliminate pests quicker, just like they did at my house, because they care about what matters most to you. When pests show up, so does Terminix. Don't live with a pest problem, Terminix it. Visit Terminix.com today to schedule a free inspection online. That's TERMINIX.com. That's right, Terminix it.
What's happening, beautiful people? It's your main man, E to the T here. And cool air, open trails, and that perfect Florida winter sunshine, woo! It's the season to get outside and explore Clay County. From Christmas parades and hometown festivals to holiday markets and local theater shows, holiday magic is lighting up every corner of Clay County. Get outside, get moving, and get active. Come see everything happening this season at exploreclay.com. That's exploreclay.com.
1010XL, presented by Farah and Farah, exclusive injury law firm of the Jacksonville Jaguars. When it's game time, Farah doesn't flinch. Hacker After Dark on 1010XL.
Halftime, Hacker After Dark, 1 hour down, 1 hour to go. We'll take you up till 10 o'clock, as we do every night right here on 1010XL and on 92.5 FM. Coming up here in the 9 o'clock hour, the coach, Gerald Ingram, 18 years as a running back coach in the National Football League. You hear him every Sunday with myself and the Pro Bowler Leon Searcy on the fifth quarter. We'll have the coach on to preview the Jaguars and the Texans. We'll also talk to Chad Forbes at NFL Draft Bites on social media. Chad doesn't sugarcoat a whole lot, man. He will let you know what he thinks, and we'll talk about the Jaguars and the rest of the AFC South. So Chad Forbes and Gerald Ingram coming up here in the 9 o'clock hour. Speaking of Gerald Ingram, I mentioned the fifth quarter. We will be on 2 hours after the Jaguars and the Texans go final on Sunday, right here on 1010XL. Should get underway around 6 o'clock or so. Again, the Pro Bowler Leon Searcy, the coach Gerald Ingram, and myself for the fifth quarter. And I invite you out on Sunday for the game to our watch party. I will be at Pour Tap Room downtown, Laura and Forsyth, for the Jags and the Texans. We'll be giving stuff away. We'll be hanging out. Pour Tap Room is a terrific place to watch football games. Denmark's been out there for a couple of Gator watch parties. I'll be out there on Sunday for a Jaguar watch party. So come on out, have a little fellowship, a little camaraderie with me, and let's watch the Jaguars and the Texans Sunday, 1 o'clock, out at Pour Tap Room at Laura and Forsyth. You know, Denmark, I'm trying to get excited about the NFL slate coming up this weekend. First and foremost, that game last night was putrid. Denver and the Las Vegas Raiders, that was horrible. Denver wins 10-7. To Denver's credit, they're 8-2. Although I think you start doing a deep dive on who they've actually beaten, and you start wondering if they're very similar to Indianapolis in that regard. But nevertheless, you play 10 NFL games, you win 8 of them. Ugly or not, that's getting the job done. Falcons-Colts on Sunday. That's the Sunday morning game in Berlin. I believe this is the first NFL regular season game ever in Berlin. I just don't think Atlanta's going to have the stuff to beat Indianapolis. I would hope Atlanta does. I do think this is the last game for the Colts where you can say they're not going to lose. They could legitimately lose their next 7. They won't lose all 7, but they could. I don't think Atlanta's going to beat them, Mark? Am I giving them too much? Am I giving the Colts too much credit there?
I have no idea what kind of Falcons team is going to show up. I think the Colts are going to win. But, I mean, the Falcons team loses by 30 to Carolina. They get crushed by Miami at home. And yet, on a Monday night, they can beat Buffalo.
Wipe the floor with Buffalo.
And so, I mean, and they've been the same team for 4 years under different quarterbacks, different coaches. You have no idea what team shows up on a week-to-week basis.
And you could argue they outplayed New England in Foxborough last week. Their kicker just missed an extra point. Patriots beat them 24-23. So we'll see. Falcons, Colts. The Jaguars will know what the Colts did before the Jaguars even kick off on Sunday. Outside of that, Giants, Bears, yuck. Bills, Dolphins, yuck. Ravens, Vikings, all right, that's okay. It's a big game for Baltimore. They're getting healthier. Baltimore is starting to do a little something now. They've won 2 in a row. That's a good road test for them in Minnesota. Boy, there'll be a lot of draft positioning on the line in New York. Cleveland and the New York Jets. The Jets, the first game after their fire sale. Remember, no more Quinnen Williams, no more Sauce Gardner as they host the Browns. 1 o'clock in Tampa. This is probably the game of the week. Certainly one of them. Patriots, Buccaneers. Now, the problem is both of these teams are without a lot of starters, and really you see that all over the league now. Jaguars, Texans are going to be without a lot of starters. It's just where we are in that point of the year. But Denmark, I like that one in Tampa between the Patriots and the Buccaneers.
Yeah, I think it's probably going to be the best game on the slate. I like Tampa to win the game, slightly coming off a bye. A lot of the 1 o'clock slates within the last 3 or 4 weeks, I don't know if it's just me, have not been entertaining, and they haven't had a lot of action. I know Red Zone's good for those last 30 minutes, the witching hour, the watching the fourth quarter, but there's not a lot of games where I have to sit down and say, okay, I have to watch this game because it is, 2 good teams or it's entertaining. It's usually a lot of bad teams.
Yeah, I mean, it's on paper, it's not great, but it's NFL football. It beats a stick in the eye. Saints, Panthers. Then you got the Jaguars, Texans, Cardinals, Seahawks. Cardinals start life without Kyler Murray, although that went pretty well for them last week on Monday Night Football in that win over Dallas. Here's a good one at 4 o'clock, 4:25, Rams, 49ers. That is a gigantic game in the NFC West. Rams 6-2, Niners 6-3. Remember, the Niners beat them head-to-head already this year. That's a big game for the Rams. You got the Lions and the Commanders. And I do like Sunday Night Football. Sunday Night Football is a big game in the AFC. You got the 5-3 Steelers, the 6-3 Chargers. Keep in mind, the Chargers come here a week from Sunday. So in a perfect world, the Jaguars go out to Houston, take care of business. Everybody, of course, listens to the fifth quarter because it's what you do on Sundays, right? And then we all prop our feet up Sunday night and watch the team you play next week. The Chargers hosting Pittsburgh. Denmark, that's a big one in the AFC.
Yeah, no doubt. The Steelers. I think the Steelers are going to win this game.
They looked good last week.
They did look good last week. They didn't look good the last couple of weeks prior. The defense, which was kind of their calling card, they spent a lot of money in their secondary. Hadn't looked good, but they looked good last week. And, I mean, the Chargers, man, that offensive line, you talk about the injuries.
Oh, geez.
I mean, Joe Alt, Slater, your tackles.
They did trade for Penning from New Orleans, but I know people in New Orleans that think he's one of the biggest high-round busts the Saints have drafted in 20 years.
Well, I mean, really good tackles are hard to come by. And, you talk about the drop-off, like, you can find a Kendrick Bourne that's a receiver that's on the street and bring him in as a free agent, and he can perform. The Jags right now, they had, Tim Patrick got released from the Lions, and he came to Jacksonville.
Well, they traded for him, but right,
yeah,
I get your
they
point.
traded for him. Like, linemen, you never see that because there's very few linemen that are available that are very, very good. And, I mean, you have the tackles that were out, and there was one game, I think when they played Indianapolis, it might have been a couple weeks ago, they had to play 3 different right guards during the game because they had so many guys get hurt.
Yeah, their offensive line is decimated, and also they've lost their top 2 running backs.
Well, and Amari and Hampton.
Yeah, Hampton and Najee Harris are out. So, yeah, the Chargers are a mass unit. but that should be a good one on Sunday night. Let's talk Jaguars, Texans. Let's look around the rest of the National Football League as well. Chad Forbes at NFL Draft Bites on social media is where you find his work. Love him, hate him. He's going to shoot you straight. That's why we enjoy having Chad on Hacker After Dark, and he joins me next on a Friday night here in Northeast Florida. We're glad you're with us till 10 o'clock. It's 1010XL and 92.5 FM.
While you were watching the ball, he saw what happened in the trenches.
I'm Jeff Lauderman.
And he tells you about it every Tuesday. Check the tape. 10 to noon on Jaguars Today. Checked by Napa Auto Care on 1010XL.
Business owners, are you tired of getting the runaround from your plumbing or AC vendors? Fire them now and call Duck Duck Rooter. Duck Duck Rooter is the trusted partner for some of the largest commercial companies in Northeast Florida. From a professional accounting office that makes contracts and invoicing seamless to highly skilled field technicians who fix the problems fast, they handle it all. Make the smart move today with Duck Duck Rooter. Call 904-862-6769. 904-862-6769. Duck Duck Rooter, a proud partner of the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Pickett here. You know me. I'm a protect the skin kind of guy. That said, it's getting a little cooler and the long sleeves are making their way out. This is absolutely the best time of year to go see my guys, the docs at Beaches Dermatology. Don't wait any longer. It's time. Protect that skin, folks. You know what else it's almost time for? The holidays, coming sooner than we think. Skincare products make great presents for the wife or girlfriend. Knock out a consult and buy your wife a present. Boom! Give them a call today. Online at beachesdermatology.com.
This Date in Sports History is brought to you by Southeast Orthopedic Specialists.
On November 7th, 1991, Magic Johnson retires from the NBA after disclosing that he had tested positive for the HIV virus.
Hello, First Coast. I'm sure by now you have seen our bright green GFL trucks and containers throughout the greater Jacksonville area. We're an industry leader in solid waste and would love the opportunity to earn your business. We're committed to customer service, reliability, and have an unwavering focus on safety. Whether commercial or construction, let us haul your waste away. Call 904-760-5880 to get a quote today from GFL, Green for Life.
I'm Stacy, and I want to tell you about my fogged up window fiasco at my house. I called up Mac at Baker Glass, and he told me all I needed was a glass replacement. The process was so easy. All within a few days, they came out, measured, called me with an estimate, cut my glass, and came out to install the new ones. Now my view outside is fog-free thanks to Mac and his crew at Baker Glass. And my neighbors think I got some fancy new windows.
I'm Mac with Baker Glass. No one treats you better.
I'm with Retro Cycles of Jacksonville, and the fall part of the year just offers so much fun, especially when you're out and about. Tell everybody what's happening with Triumph right now.
They have got a lot of new models on the road, from Scrambler 400s. They've got the legendary Rocket motorcycle. Lots of really cool bikes to choose from.
And the price point and all the tricks that come with the Triumph bike, they're all there.
They're all there. Entry level to the greatest of the great. We've got them.
Look for them online, cyclesofjacksonville.com. Check out their Facebook page or that showroom on Atlantic near Regency.
Committed to the mission. At Navy Mutual, we're committed to providing high-quality life insurance to members of the military and their families. Because at Navy Mutual, our highest commitment is to you. Visit NavyMutual.org.
This Veterans Day, Navy Mutual would like to salute Bobby Jones as our hero in sports. Jones is known as one of the greatest golfers in history and is perhaps best known for winning all 4 major tournaments in 1930.
Hey, Hicken here. Tired of glasses or contacts? Discover customized vision solutions at Bowden Eye & Associates. Dr. Bowden's team offers cutting-edge options like EVO implantable Collamer lenses or refractive lens exchange and classic LASIK, designed to fit your life. Picture perfect vision for reading, driving, or just enjoying the day. It's easier than you think. Call now for your free screening. Bowden Eye & Associates, they're keeping the First Coast focused.
Instant Keys. You don't have to go to the dealer. Instant Keys comes to you. Call 904-722-1111.
Instant Keys saves the day if you've lost or broken keys. They can program new keys and remotes for nearly every make and model of vehicle at a fraction of the dealership cost. Fast, honest, and reliable locksmith service. Call Instant Keys, 722-1111.
1010XL, presented by Farah and Farah, exclusive injury law firm of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Focused, fueled, fearless, Farah. Now, another great guest on the Checkmate Coatings phone line. Hello. Your floor's missing piece.
Back here on 1010XL at 92.5 FM in the city of Jacksonville. We are glad you are with us. The Jaguars and the Texans, Sunday, 1 o'clock. Of course, you'll hear the game right here on 1010XL. A big game in the AFC South. The Jaguars can, well, basically put the final nail in the Texans' coffin when it comes to division chances in 2025. A win for Jacksonville would all but end Houston's division title hopes. Let's talk about the game. Let's look around the division as well. Chad Forbes at NFL Draft Bites is where you follow him on social media, and Chad's always kind enough to join us here on 1010XL. Chad, how we doing, man?
Well, things have certainly shifted since that 4-1 start down in Duval, where that defense looked elite, and now you enter a Texans game, and dare I say must win if you want to stay in this division race.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that. You and I haven't spoke since really the regular season began, so I'm just curious. You mentioned the 4-1 start. The Jaguars currently sit at 5-3. I thought last week's win over Vegas was enormous from a confidence standpoint. What is your overall thought on the Jaguars at 5-3 right now?
Well, that defense looked elite those first 3 or 4 weeks, and after that Kansas City game, you got to be riding high down in Duval. That was like a signature win. Felt like the program was heading in the right direction. Last week, miracle, you pulled it out, but you really just ran into an NFC West buzzsaw. Those are two really good teams. People don't appreciate yet how good Seattle is on both sides of the ball. So those are tough losses, but this is why we love the NFL, right? 4-1 coming off the Monday night home win. You're riding high, just thinking this team is heading on the right course. And then a few weeks later, you're a little concerned. So last week, the miracle win, and now you got Houston.
5-3. And the one thing, Chad, and you and I have talked for years now, the Jaguars just don't win a lot of close games, or at least they hadn't up until this year. They've won 4 one-score games. And I think, Liam Cohen has come in here, James Gladstone, this new staff, and clearly there is a different confidence with this team when it comes to late-game situations.
Right, and the confidence meter in the coach and the general manager should certainly be high. Trevor's got to play better, and we keep doing this and rehashing that point, but it's the disconnect with Brian Thomas to me is the real concern. You have Travis Hunter go down, and it seems like the next primary target is Parker Washington. After that rookie season, and I'm struggling with it in my fantasy league. I got Brian Thomas, took him in the second round. There's just some sort of disconnect there on offense, and that's the concern. And then defensively, I didn't really understand the Tyson Campbell trade, but they've got issues in that secondary, and the pass rush needs to get a little bit stronger for them to really make that run.
Chad Forbes at NFL Draft Bites on social media. Certainly a fan favorite down here with the Jaguar fans on Twitter. I saw you mixing it up with them earlier in the week regarding Travis Hunter. We'll get to him in a moment. You mentioned Trevor Lawrence. I call it the Trevor Lawrence experience. In fact, a lot of people down here call it the Trevor Lawrence experience. And I relate it back to whether it's, you want to call it Jay Cutler, maybe a poor man's Brett Favre. Trevor, 2 or 3 times per game, will do something that makes you want to rip your hair out. You almost accept it as fact at this point that that's going to happen. But with that being said, Trevor will also do 2 or 3 things per game that make you go, wow. And that's just kind of the Trevor Lawrence experience, is it not?
Right, and he turned 26 last month. And you look at the quarterbacks around the league that are having tons of success, these high picks, whether it's a Baker Mayfield or a Sam Darnold, right? It really didn't come together until they were 28, 29. Now, Baker, 30 years old. So, we keep giving him the excuse that he's young, and part of that's because he came out as a 21-year-old underclassman. But, he makes some throws where you're like, not a lot of guys on the planet can make it. Then there's frustrating moments, especially with the turnovers.
Travis Etienne looks like a very young Travis Etienne. He's running like he did back in 2022. We saw what Liam Cohen did with that running game in Tampa last year, and boy, it appears he's brought that to Jacksonville.
Right, and it might be time to pay Travis. There's going to be a lot of free agents that are running back, so they don't have to really act too quickly. You don't want to risk the injury when they're back. But, he does look the best he's looked really since the rookie season, and he's a dynamic player. It wouldn't be surprising. It's a weak free agent group if he gets to the market and somebody pays him pretty handsomely.
That's the offensive free agent. Defensively, Devin Lloyd looks to be back this week. He's missed the last couple of games. He was in the running for Defensive Player of the Year prior to the injury. What do you do with Devin Lloyd if you're Jacksonville this offseason?
Well, I don't think they're going to pay him, right? They didn't pick up the fifth-year option. He's going to get to the market because when you try to franchise tag him, you're going to basically have to pay a pass rusher price, and you're not going to do that for an off-ball linebacker. He's going to get to the market, and it's not a great group. So teams have to spend money. He could end up getting paid.
The Jaguars, Chad, were active at the trade deadline. They do bring in Jakobi Meyers. Your thoughts on Meyers to Jacksonville?
It's interesting. There was clearly a bidding war there, right? They gave up some pretty good value to get Jakobi Meyers in there as a rental. He's a good player, right? He's going to help replace Travis Hunter. And he's a guy that what I like about is he knows his role. He's not overly demanding of the ball, right? He'll block. He does a lot for you. So good acquisition by the Jags there.
A couple of more for Chad Forbes. Like I said earlier in the week, you had some thoughts on Travis Hunter coming to Jacksonville. Will we see him again this year? That's the hope. There's still a lot of mystery about the injury that took place or how long he may be out, depending on who you talk to. You always hear something different. We know at a minimum he's going to miss at least the next 3 games. What was your thought on Hunter pre-injury, and what's your thought on how that's going to work out long term?
The buzzword is always versatility, right? We hear that all the time, especially during the draft season. But when it gets to successful NFL players, winning guys, they have a defined role, right? And with Travis Hunter, it's just like making him a kind of gadget piece. You're moving around, playing here, playing on defense. Like, let him win at one thing. I think right now he'd be the better wide receiver than corner. Have him commit 100% to that, right? And they didn't. And so I compare him a little bit to Tavon Austin, who this group had in Los Angeles, right? And they could never find a role for him on the offense, right? It was like, let's play some wide receiver. Or, oh no, let's just focus on returns this week. So I think defining a role for Travis Hunter going forward is very important.
What's interesting about the Jaguars is that they're beat to heck. They got a lot of injured guys, but for the most part, Chad, a lot of their guys are going to come back. Devin Lloyd, as I mentioned, looks like he's going to come back this week. We might be a week or 2 away from potentially seeing Brenton Strange back. Eric Murray at some point will come back. Jordan Lewis as well. And as we said, there's still hope that Travis Hunter could come back. So even though the Jaguars are a battered and bruised bunch right now, it's not a lot of season-ending stuff. If they can keep their head above water, these guys should be coming back in the next month or so.
Right, and there's other teams around the league that have it pretty bad too. So the Jaguars are in a good spot. And, part of that is just having a younger roster, right? You guys tend to be healthier. So, a couple weeks this could all change. But right now they do look pretty healthy. This Houston game is huge, right? It just really sets the direction for the second half of the season.
Chad Forbes at NFL Draft Bites. Chad, the Jaguars do go to Houston on Sunday. You'll hear it right here on 1010XL beginning at 1 o'clock Sunday afternoon. It's probably a must-win for the Texans. Of course, they're not going to have C.J. Stroud. They're going to have Davis Mills, but I don't care one iota about that. I'm old enough to remember Jake Browning carving this Jaguar defense up about 6 or 7 weeks ago. So the fact that it's a must-win for Houston, I think Jacksonville might be going into a hornet's nest on Sunday afternoon.
Yeah, absolutely. And the Texans love Davis Mills. They keep extending him a pretty good backup quarterback money. And it's not like C.J. Stroud is lighting the world on fire. So maybe a guy out there who doesn't have a lot of tape can come out and light you up. Those pass rushers need to play a good game. I've liked the way that Ogbah's mixed in there to that front. And then I think a huge key to this game, obviously, is Trevor not turning the ball over because that Texans defense, it can be pretty opportunistic, and their pass rush is pretty fierce.
Chad, why has it not worked in Houston? They're 3-5 and hanging on to division title hopes by a thread, and we're just in the first part of November. What has gone wrong there?
Yeah, C.J. Stroud hasn't played well enough, right? So many of these teams, it just comes down to how the quarterback's playing and what the expectations you put on him. Right? They were trying to build this pass game around him after that rookie season. They fired the offensive coordinator thinking he's the problem. And now we're looking at it in his 3rd season and saying it might be the quarterback's not as good as we thought, after that rookie season. So also their run game is just, I don't love it. It's too simplistic. They don't get any really movement at the point of attack. They haven't done a great job on the interior offensive line there. So it's an offense that the way they built it, right, puts a huge amount of pressure on the quarterback.
Let's quickly look around the division. I know you were very high on the Sauce Gardner acquisition by Indianapolis, and maybe I'm a Jacksonville homer here. Maybe I am. I think the Colts are good. Don't get me wrong. I also think they've had the benefit of one of the easier schedules in the league. Now, to their credit, they have destroyed these teams, but the Cardinals, the Raiders, the Dolphins, and 2 wins over the Titans. We kind of saw last week when you start playing good teams what may happen with Indy. I think they beat Atlanta on Sunday over in Ireland, But then their last 7 games, Chad, road trips to Seattle, Kansas City, Jacksonville, and Houston, home games against Jacksonville, Houston, and San Francisco. Boy, the second half on paper looks a lot tougher than the first half.
Yeah, it sure does. And last week, of course, Mike Tomlin's the one that kind of humbles the Colts, right? I mean, it's just one of those games you felt like Mike Tomlin was going to win. This week, Atlanta's defense is actually more opportunistic and better than people think. But the way the Colts work, if they can get that run game rolling behind Quentin Nelson with Jonathan Taylor, you're just like not going to beat them, right? And Daniel Jones has played well. They're calling him Indiana Jones now, and I'm a Giants fan, so I've been watching a lot of him. He's an athletic guy. He can make some throws, but I don't know if he can sustain this level of play. So, yeah, Indy looks real good. The Jaguars got to win, though, to stay in the hunt. And, if the offense doesn't get more consistent in there in Duval, they're not going to be able to knock off the Colts to win this division.
Do you think the price tag was too much for Sauce Gardner?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, first of all, I don't think corners in general are worth that. I don't think pass rushers, they got to be elite to be worth 2 first-round picks. We know it's going to be a late one that first year. So that's a pretty good deal for the Jets. It was an offer the Jets couldn't say no to. And, Chris Ballard, the position he's sitting in, right, he's got to get it done now or he's going to be gone. So that second first-round pick, in 2027, he might not even be holding on to.
And as we wrap up, Chad, Tennessee's a dumpster fire. They've already fired Brian Callahan. Look, they're just a bad run organization. I think they're 4-22 in their last 26 games. And you kind of feel bad for Cam Ward to be drafted into a situation like that.
Yeah, you sure do. And clearly the owner there is a little bit lost. I mean, she's been kind of playing the Game of Thrones, right? She keeps firing and hiring people. So letting Mike Vrabel out the door, what he's done in New England was clearly not a great idea.
Chad, final question. We won't hold you to it. We'll hopefully have you back on next month prior to the playoffs. But as we sit right now, entering the middle portion of November, give me your top 3 in the AFC, your top 3 in the NFC, the way it sits right now.
Buffalo ends up taking off New England, and it's Indy and Denver. I guess I'm not trying to be overly creative here. It's like these are teams are running away with it, right? I mean, New England's going to fade a little bit, you got to think, and I think the Jaguars sneak into the playoffs. I think they're probably the 7th seed. Kansas City and Chargers ran around, and it's tough. Yeah, and then NFC, it's the best team there is Philadelphia, right? If they just get their act together, and then the Rams. So it's tough. We're kind of at that pivotal point in the year where we're just trying to figure out these teams' identities and what they can do in the second half. The teams that you really are like the Rams, right? You just know their defense is great, and Stafford's going to play well, so I'm pretty sold on them. And the Chiefs, I think they're going to have a revitalization in the second half.
I mean, your social media account is NFL Draft Bites. If the NFL Draft were tomorrow, who's the number 1 pick?
The linebacker from The Ohio State University, whose name now escapes me. I watched this guy, and I know he's an off-ball linebacker. He can do everything. He's a dynamic player. The quarterbacks in this draft are, you want to talk about a bad year, right? If I'm the Jets and I had the first pick and for some reason, they say he's going to go back to Texas, I just take Arch Manning and hope, right? Like, I'm not sold on Mendoza, the Oregon quarterback. So it's another draft you're looking at where you say, oh, this is just not very exciting.
Chad Forbes at NFL Draft Bites. Chad, I know you're busy. Thank you as always for the time, and we'll talk again soon, pal.
Yeah, it was great. Hopefully you guys go down to Houston and get a win. And that Ohio State linebacker's name is Arvell Reese.
Living life on the edge of your seat.
Are you kidding me?
Your front row seat for play-by-play.
Break it free, they're not going to catch you.
1010XL.
Blue here for the Blue Crab House, located right off of San Jose. It's on Jewington Creek Road. They've been around since 1996. Indoor-outdoor dining. Also, takeout is available at the Blue Crab House. Open 4:30 to 9, Tuesday through Saturday. Sunday, noon until 9. Remember, Tuesday, $2 margaritas. Wednesday, $1 oyster night. How about the blue crabs? How about my personal favorite, the Canadian snow crabs? Whatever it is that you fancy, you get it right there. The Blue Crab House.
Jacksonville is my hometown, and nobody knows roofing like me. I'm Ronnie, the owner of Brandon Roofing. We handle everything from repairs to full roof replacements, start to finish. We give honest quotes, use quality materials, and clean up like we were never there. We all look at Google reviews, so go ahead and check out ours. We're proud of all our 5-star ratings. I would say we treat you like family, but some people don't like theirs. Go to BrandonRoofing.com today to schedule your free roof quote.
License number CCC 1328006.
Lucas Tree Service is a certified arborist and a local family-owned business with over 45 years of experience. They specialize in tree removal, trimming, and stump grinding for both residential and commercial properties. Get prepared for storm season and receive top-notch customer service from Lucas Tree Service, 904-241-3533. Online at lucastreeservice.com.
Frank Frangie here for Coyle & Sons Fencing. Jacksonville is full of memorable sports moments. Remember the 2017 AFC Championship game when Miles Jack wasn't down? You know what else isn't down? Fences installed by Coyle. Their fences have been standing tall here in Jacksonville for nearly a century. Since 1927, Coyle has been the fencing leader in Northeast Florida. If you're in the market for a new fence, I recommend calling Coyle & Sons today at 904-356-4821, CoyleJacks.com. That's C-O-Y-L-E Jacks.com. Coyle Fencing, proud partner of the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Hi folks, Jason Parker here with Performance Painting. Ever wonder what to do with leftover paint that you don't want? Here's a few options. Paint can be placed in the regular trash if it's dry. Simply stir in kitty litter to a thick consistency. Then wait a few days with the lid off till it dries. Also, if the paint is good, there's many charities or churches that would love to have it. If you'd like more tips or have a project, we'd love to help. Go to performance-painting.com. Performance Painting, repair, protect, preserve.
Performance painting.
When storms start to crop up in the Atlantic or Gulf this time of year, having a solid plan to handle anything that sweeps through the First Coast is very important. That's where American Electrical comes in. Ensure your home's safety and comfort with an American Electrical home generator. As the area's leading home generator dealer and installer, American Electrical can offer you easy installation, simple maintenance, and peace of mind. Schedule an assessment by simply calling the team at American Electrical. They'll walk you through the best generator for your home or business. Log on, american-electrical.com.
1010XL, presented by Farah and Farah, exclusive injury law firm of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Still present, ready. Farah doesn't flinch. Now, the cool down with Donovan Air Electric and Plumbing, keeping Jack's cool since 1987.
Back here on 1010XL at 92.5 FM in the city of Jacksonville. We are glad you are with us. The Jaguars and the Texans coming up this Sunday in Houston. Of course, 2 hours after that game goes final, you'll get the Pro Bowler Leon Searcy, myself, and the coach, Gerald Ingram, for the fifth quarter. Let's look ahead to Houston, but more so, let's look back on what was an incredible victory in Las Vegas. Gerald Ingram, 18 years as an NFL running backs coach, always kind enough to join us here on Hacker After Dark. Coach, how we doing, bud?
Oh, it's a good morning. It was a good football game for us to watch and finish the way we did. You know, we had to overcome some things, and it was good to see us fight.
Coach, what an incredible football game. From the longest field goal in the history of the league to a fourth down score in overtime at the goal line to stopping a two-point conversion, which would have won the game for the Raiders. I mean, that game on Sunday had a little bit of everything.
Yeah, it did. It had a lot of players that stepped up to the bat, and they did a good job trying to step up. You know, the offensive line, you know, after looking at it, did a pretty good job protecting the quarterback. Most part, they came off the ball to run the ball, which they really needed. And I thought the intensity was there. So it was good to see the fight in them. There's some things we can patch up and get better on the backside of runs. But as far as what they did game plan-wise, as far as the receiver stepping up, the running back playing very well, all of them coming in to do what they had to do when needed to. The quarterback, when he did make the good decisions with the ball, you know, he was better in those kind of situations. Like to have one back, but there were some good things from a team aspect offensively that were very, very good.
You know, speaking of Trevor Lawrence, Coach, that interception to me was about as bad of interception as you'll see an NFL quarterback throw. I mean, I honestly, I thought that was ridiculous. And the problem is we've seen that more and more with Trevor over the years. But after you digest that, which was hard to digest, man, I thought the rest of the game he was pretty darn good. What was your thought?
I agree with you. Pretty, you know, for the most part, he was pretty good. You know, he had one accuracy ball, and once he got that cleaned up, you know, earlier in the game, I think he was on mark. There were some good throws being done out there. I think he helped elevate the receiver core, and I saw better focus on trying to catch the ball and run after catch, and Edgar Bennett had done a great job this week, obviously, with the injuries and distraction of the injury that, hey, no one player, makes a difference in winning. And when you have an opportunity, Parker Washington definitely looked confident out there. I thought he looked confident. I thought BT looked confident. There were some good, solid things being done to try and win the game, and the rest of the season might be like this, right down to the wire. And if we learn to fight for each other all the way, and, but like I said, the interception was inexcusable. And, we got time of possession. We got long drives, but you got to finish off and score. What's your job? Score, and it was inexcusable. Pitch the ball to the guy. He probably would walk in if you give it to ETN. It made no sense to throw it to that guy. It's just a hiccup. But, the thing you give about this team and this guy, they just keep moving on. One blunder after another. 1st and 15. It doesn't matter. Self-inflicted. It's like, all right, we're going to let it happen, but we got to, the next play is the only play that matters. And that's how they play.
Couple more for the coach, Gerald Ingram. Let's go to your bread and butter. Again, 18 years for you as a running back coach in the NFL. The Jaguars in overtime, coach, took the ball. They went run, pass, and then their next 8 plays, 8 in a row, all runs, punching it in on 4th and goal there in overtime. You want to talk about establishing yourself and winning the battle at the line of scrimmage? When you run it 8 straight times in the NFL and find the end zone, boy, that's getting it done up front.
That is definitely getting done. And that's the way we said we're going to play football this year. And they got into some serious run formation sets and their jumbo sets and say, hey, this is how we're going to attack you. There's no checking out. There's no RPO. We are going to button up and just hit you in the mouth. And we're going to control the clock. And it was well done. You wouldn't have asked to do it any other way, to try and score. And you're going to break their will and their pride by running the ball down their throat. The running back did well. There were some key offensive linemen that did well in that drive. So that's exactly what we needed to grow and be better.
You've coached a lot of great running backs, from Fred Taylor to Tiki Barber on down the line. Boy, Coach, I thought ETN ran hard on Sunday. He looks to me as good as he looked back in 2022.
Yeah, he good. He ran downhill. He ran quick. He pinballed off of people. He's exactly where he needed to be today, back where he used to be. There were a couple reads here and there he'd like to have back, but for the most part, he hit the hole. He hit it hard. His run finish, I was pleased with his run finish. He kept his feet moving, and he got the necessary yards. And not every play is going to be clean for a running back, and he handled that. So he didn't waver and just kept his feet moving and looked determined to make something happen. So that was great to see out of him.
Coach, I got to ask you about the longest field goal in the history of the league. Cam Little had struggled, certainly, the last couple of weeks. Look, I'm not going to throw stones in a glass house. I said on here last week that I would have brought a kicker in and put him on the practice squad to give Cam Little some competition. I thought it had gotten to that point. And then yesterday, Cam Little, 68 yards, right, for the longest kick in the history of the league. And then maybe more so, the 48-yarder to tie the game with under 30 seconds to go. I mean, what a performance by Cam Little.
It was a great performance, but, as a player or a competitor, you look for that second chance to prove yourself. And he created doubt, and that was all on him in the last few weeks. He created doubt. He probably created a little bit of doubt in himself, but to dream that you're going to get another chance to prove yourself, prove your worth, that's what he's looking to do. That's what most great competitors do. And now he's got a legacy, an unbelievable legacy. Jacksonville is definitely part of that as well. But, to do what he did, he could have kicked another 75-yarder for that matter. Now, can he consistently do it again? He knows he can. But he's got to go out and do it every week.
Final moments with the coach, Gerald Ingram. All right, when you take a look big picture, I want to get to Houston in a moment. This was a Jaguar team that at times on Sunday had one healthy tight end. It was a Jaguar team that at times on Sunday in a 3 wide receiver set had Parker Washington, Austin Trammell, and Tim Jones due to injury. They're beat to heck at safety. They're beat to heck after Jordan Lewis got injured on the first drive. Obviously, the gut punch that Travis Hunter suffered with that injury and this team suffered last week. You know, Brock Bowers is obliterating the Jaguar secondary to the tune of, $140 and 3 touchdowns or whatever it was. And yet, despite all of that, Coach, they go out west and they win a game on the road. Look, I don't know. I mean, this team has a lot of flaws, but one thing they are, man, they are a resilient bunch.
Yes, they are. They're very resilient. They hung in there together. They stuck together. They didn't point fingers at each other. They didn't attack each other. They played as a team. They fought. They overcame the mistakes they made. You know, they were playing the next play, and that's all they cared about. So they listened. Yeah, we knew they're not going to be perfect. We knew we make our mistakes, but, you know, you're proud of the fact that they hung in there. They fought. They didn't just hang back and say, we're going to wait for somebody else to make the play. I think they all found a way to rise up as a team.
It's amazing what a win will do, Coach. If Devon Hamilton does not knock that ball down, Tyler Lockett could fair catch that ball for the win. I mean, there was no one within 8 yards of him in the back of the end zone. You know, you talk about it being a game of inches. Football is a game of inches, and goodness gracious, one big paw of Devon Hamilton is the difference between 5-3 and 4-4 right now.
Yeah, it's, you know, for the kid, you know, that probably doesn't have a lot of plays, but, you know, when you look in history, that was your time, that was your play, and thank God that was. So, you know, we saw the play after, and, you know, thank God that he was able to get that big paw up there and make a difference to win.
All right, you and I, along with Leon Searcy, will have the 5th quarter on Sunday, 2 hours after the Jaguars and the Texans go final. Coach, this is about putting a nail in the coffin of your arch rival in your division, right? I mean, the Jaguars are 5-3. The Texans are 3-5. The Jaguars already have a head-to-head over them. If Jacksonville goes out there and beats them again, they're up 3 games plus a tiebreaker. You're basically up 4 with 8 to go, and that would probably be curtains for the Texans.
Definitely. You have to win your division, and that's the most important. This week is the most important game in Jaguar history, okay? It's another new height. You got another opportunity to beat them twice, one here, one there, and just basically take it away from them. And that's how you put yourself in position for whatever happens after that. But this is the most important game. We're not leaving yards out there. We're not leaving wish I could have's. You're going out there to attack with confidence. You know you can do it. You've been there before. And if we just play smart football, play the same intensity, if not higher, you know, we have a chance. So I would think this, no matter who plays this week, it's your opportunity to win. That's all that matters. If they find a way to win this week with some intensity in Houston, knowing what they have on the line, you know, you shouldn't have to make it up. You know, this is the game, and I hope everybody's ready to cheer them on.
Coach, final question. The Texans have to win. They are in a must-win. Now, we don't know C.J. Stroud's status. Certainly it did not look good on Sunday. It could potentially be Davis Mills. But regardless of who the quarterback is, the Jaguars are going to know that they're going to be going into a hornet's nest because this is the Texans' season on Sunday.
Exactly right. I mean, we saw it in Cincinnati. You know, it doesn't matter who the quarterback is. It doesn't look like, you know, he might be in protocol. Who knows, you know, what that situation is. We'll find out as it goes. But we won with him on the field, so let's win with him no matter if he's on or off the field. So, you know, let's not have a setback and say, well, they didn't have to have – it's a must-win for them. Well, it's a must-win for us. That's how I see it. You know, we're on the yellow brick road to wherever this year goes. So you're not waiting to find out what happens down the road in the future and next year's players and all that. Your opportunity is to win now, no matter who's on the field, Okay? Win this game. That's all you got to do, and we'll be fine.
The coach, Gerald Ingram. You'll get him Sunday evening right around 6 o'clock, 2 hours after the Jaguars and the Texans go final, along with myself and the Pro Bowler, Leon Searcy. Coach, have a great week. I will see you Sunday evening, my friend.
Always great talking ball with you guys.
And thank you to the coach, Gerald Ingram, for joining us tonight here on Hacker After Dark. You'll hear the coach Sunday, 2 hours after the Jaguars and the Texans go final, with myself and the Pro Bowler, Leon Searcy, for the fifth quarter. And we certainly appreciate the coach joining us here every week on Hacker After Dark. Obviously, we spent a ton of time on the Jaguars and the Texans. Look, I've gone back and forth on this game all week. I was honestly going to pick Houston up until last night with the opening segment of the Thursday night edition of Hacker After Dark, and I basically just talked myself in to the Jaguars because I don't think this is the same old Jaguars. The same old Jaguars would go out to Houston and lose to Davis Mills. But I think this team is different. Even without Brian Thomas Jr., you have Jacoby Myers now. You'll have Parker Washington, Tim Patrick, De'Ami Brown. I think that'll be enough in the passing game. You're going to need to run the football, certainly. The Texans are going to be without not only C.J. Stroud, but a couple of starting offensive linemen, a very good starting safety in Jalen Petrie. I think Jacksonville will find a way. I don't think it'll be the prettiest display of football, but I think it'll be an ugly, low-scoring defensive battle that Jacksonville will ultimately find a way to win. Give me the Jaguars 16, Houston 13, and Jacksonville all but ends Houston's chances of winning the AFC South on Sunday. Well, that will just about do it, man. Very, very busy Friday night edition of Hacker After Dark, and a really busy week here on Hacker After Dark. As always, we appreciate you guys hanging out with us here on 1010XL and on 92.5 FM. We have a ton of people to thank. Again, the coach, Gerald Ingram, always appreciate him joining us. Thank you to Chad Forbes at NFL Draft Bites is where you find Chad on social media. He's got kind of a, I think the Jaguar fan base has kind of a love-hate relationship with Chad on social media, but it's all in fun, all in, good conversation, and Chad will tell you what he thinks. There's no question about that. We also had Jared Bailey of the Sporting News joining us tonight, and back in hour number one, former Texan and former Jaguar defensive lineman Seth Payne. Stop by. You hear Seth every morning, Sports Radio 610 out in Houston, and we certainly appreciate Seth joining us this evening. Again, the next time I talk to you will be Sunday night. We'll be on 2 hours after the Jaguars and the Texans go final for the fifth quarter. I do hope you join us then, and we'll have a Jaguar watch party Sunday, 1 o'clock. I will be downtown at Pour Tap Room at Laura and Forsyth Street. Come out and join me for the Jaguars and the Texans matchup. I should get there probably around 12:30, 12:45, and I do hope you come out and watch the Jaguars and the Texans with us here on 1010XL at Pour Tap Room. Dylan Denmark was your producer tonight. Denmark, great job